Welcome to Getting Real. I am your host, Monique Hom, and on this show, we get real. We talk about the process of building wealth and getting real estate and the highs and the lows and the good and the bad and the ugly and all in between. And today I'm super excited to have with me a very special guest, Krisstina Wise, who is a real estate mogul. She's a millionaire coach. She's the author of Falling for Money. She's the creator of several seven-figure businesses and the creator of the Wise Money Method, which helps high-income entrepreneurs build financial freedom and personal wealth while maintaining balance in their lives. She has she talks about wealthy, WELLTHY, because, wealth is about so much more than just the money in your bank account. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to do a deep dive into financial independence, real estate investing, how to escape the money hamster wheel. And also, right before we hit record, we were talking about those times when you are on your knees and thinking, I don't know if I'm going to survive, and how those times you can use them to actually help you springboard. So I'm really excited to have Krisstina with us. Welcome, Krisstina.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so happy to be here, Monique.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into your story. I know you've built several seven-figure businesses. You have a really inspiring personal story. Tell us a little bit about your money journey and how it shaped the way. Just tell us about your story and how you've gotten to this place.
Yeah, I'll share a little story. It reminds me just what you and I were talking about off air before you said, "Hey, wait to say that until we click the record button." But I heard a quote recently that I thought, "Oh my God, that's just so true." And it says something along the lines of, "People will envy where you are, but they don't envy how you got there." And it's
100%.
just so easy, like to really envy or say, I want that, or to judge certain success or money or wealth, thinking it was, oh, that must have been easy or I don't know, unfair or something. And there's just so many scrapes and bruises and dark days and dark days and dark nights of the soul. And all of that is built into this journey. And everybody has a story. Like I, like you, interview really successful entrepreneurs on my podcast. And they all have this crazy journey of what they've gone through to get where they are. So I always say that it, like wealth and financial abundance, financial security, financial freedom, it really is available to all of us. But knowing it's a journey, like you really have to do the work, and it's not a linear straight up line. It's very curvy. I think we've all seen those, that we think success goes from here to here, and it's like this. Like,
Yes.
yeah. So I mean, I'm 50 now, so I have a number of years and a lot of stories and experiences in that time frame. And I think the story that might be most relevant to your listeners is entrepreneurs and those that are already thinking about wealth creation, is that I I've been a student my whole life. Like I've been a student of money. I've been a student of business. I've just always had mentors and coaches, and I've invested in that knowledge. And a big part of my career, I was very motivated by success and achievement. I think my personal worthiness was attached to how successful I was, and that external gratification of people thinking I was somebody and that I was successful and I had all these awards and accolades. And I was in the real estate industry for over a decade, and I mean I was rock star famous in the real estate industry. And it's kind of silly to say out loud because but I really was. Like anybody that knew me back then is like, oh my God, girlfriend, like you were a household name. Everybody knew who you were. But
And what were you doing?
the crazy thing about that is, I mean, I was speaking nationally. I did a lot of real estate technology, and I built one of the largest independent brokerages in the country. And I got a lot of just recognition for that, and spoke on the biggest real estate stages and sat on advisory boards, and just became a very public person in the real estate space. But it was interesting that no matter where I got on that ladder, it was never enough. I always had to go for the next thing and the next thing, next thing. And I was never fulfilled. Like I always felt like I wasn't doing enough. I was always feeling like I wasn't succeeding fast enough. And I was feeling like I was never making enough money. And there's just never end in sight. And I just kept pushing myself and trying to hit the next award. And I didn't even stop to think if I was happy or not. It was just, I just figured I'd worry about that sometime in the future. And I think so many of us have been in this similar situation or can resonate. But what happened is I was actually speaking on one of these largest stages in the real estate industry. And about 90% of the way through my talk, I heard this screeching sound in my ear. I mean, imagine like a train slamming on the brakes and just screeching on the tracks. And I've got 800 people in the audience, and I'm just doing my keynote. I was opening keynote speaker, and I was doing my talk, and I was just paralyzed for like 10 seconds. And this screech is going through my ear, and I don't even know what's happening. Now, the audience really didn't catch what was going on, maybe for a second, but I snapped out of it. I came back, I finished my speech. And this was like the highlight of my career. To be invited on this stage was the stage of all stages. So I'm walking out of that, out of that talk and in the hallway, and people are like grabbing at me like, Krisstina, can I book you for this? Can I book you for that? And I mean, I am thinking in my head, Krisstina, girlfriend, you started in a trailer home and look at you now. Like you have reached the pinnacle of success. You can name your price, like all these things. And so I had like 15 seconds of that feeling of, wow, I've made it. And it felt good until like 24 hours later, I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't think. I couldn't talk. I couldn't sleep. And I just went from the top to, I'm not kidding you, to the very bottom in like 7 days. And I just pushed myself to such extremes for such a period of time, like hustle and grind and hustle and grind and just trying to get to that next whatever it was, that it literally nearly killed me. And my body just basically gave me the finger and said, I'm out. What was so crazy about that is that I'd spent a decade of my life building this business and all the things. And it was, multi 7-figure business. I had 50 plus employees. I had all the things. I had all this fame. I had like this picture perfect life on the outside, but on the inside, it was a shit show. And it just caused me getting sick. I had to leave the business world to be able to try to save my life and figure out what was going wrong, because doctors couldn't figure out what was happening. So the interesting thing about that, I spent a decade of blood, sweat, and tears building this business. And within 6 months, it was costing me money versus making me money. It went down that fast. And it was just this big aha moment of like, oh my God, like I'm a business owner, entrepreneur, like from day one, but we sacrificed so much for this future and for this business and for some type of t-shirt, I think, without realizing the sacrifices and trade-offs that we're making. So that just made me realize that, money is more than just business. Money is more than just the zeros we make from our business or income. We need our health wealth, like our body's our number one asset, but our livelihood is about wealth. It's not about income. And just from that experience, I learned, I need to build wealth and have wealth that's attached to assets, not just my income from my business. And I need to bring in my wellness and treat my body like an asset and not just use and abuse myself. Because I was that classic story of you use all your health to build your wealth, and then you use all your wealth to get your health back. So that was just kind of the pivotal moment that, brought me to the work that I do today, and why I'm just so passionate about teaching money, but not money for the sake of more money, but money for the sake of living a healthy, wealthy life.
Yeah. So how do you define wealth?
Wealth, I mean, I love this definition of wealth. And I picked this up from Morgan Housel, who wrote The Psychology of Money. And there's the technical definitions, but when he put it in this frame, I just really loved it. And wealth is the money you haven't spent yet.
I love
And it
that.
just really sits, meaning it's the car we didn't buy, it's the houses we didn't buy, like the big houses that we live in. It's maybe the Rolex watch we didn't buy. It's all the things that we didn't buy for living this really expensive lifestyle. Like when our income goes up, so does our expenses. So it's that money we didn't spend, and then ask ourselves, what do we do with it? And so wealth is what we have invested, not spent. So it's assets. It's assets, money we haven't spent in the form of cash, money we haven't spent on our lifestyle in the form of other assets like real estate that I know those that follow you are really interested in building a net worth through real estate. But it's the money we haven't spent to invest in ourselves. Like it's
Yeah.
investing. So it's not spending on things. It's not the money we spend on our utility bills and our payments and all that. And it's not the money we spend on our things like our cars and our jewelry and our
Yeah.
whatever we buy that, that shows up in a package on Amazon. And instead, it's money that we invest and put in places that's going to produce some type of return. And return's not just financial return. Real estate is nice. I can provide a nice financial return called cash flow that I love with my real estate. But return also comes from what we invest in our learning. So we can, that knowledge acquisition. So it's the money we invest in ourselves to be able to make more money or to become better at business. It's money that we invest in our personal and psychological development, just to handle our traumas and to clean up our past so that we can live more joyful lives by not reliving so many of our mistakes and things, that those patterns we can get caught up. It's money we invest in our relationships to be able to have better marriages and more fulfillment at home. And so it's just the money we haven't spent on stuff that instead we invest on other financial and non-financial assets that really are what create the joy and fulfillment in life.
I love that. So when we're talking about money, this is an interesting question. It's just, how much is enough money? How do you figure out what that number is? What's enough money? How much?
Yeah, that was coming out of the story that I just told you. One thing, I had a mentor coach that was really helping me through that time. I mean, I had lots of help, but kind of a business financial coach friend that spent time with me just as I was trying to get back on my feet and different things. And he said this to me. He said, part of your issue, Krisstina, is you don't know how much is enough. Like, what's enough? Because when we're always chasing something, we're never satisfied with what we have. And it's that perpetual chase, thinking I'll be happy when I have more money or I have XYZ. And so he just said the key to true joy and fulfillment is knowing what's enough, how much is enough, like how much success is enough, how much money is enough, how much of anything is enough. And until we establish what that is, we're always just chasing more. And that chase of more means just never being satisfied, which means never being happy. So that really stuck out to me. And at first I just thought, well, that'd be pretty easy to try to figure out. And then I realized, like, oh, where do I even start with that? But it really started with designing with the work that he had me do. That was just this, I think, is the most important work that I ever did for myself. And now I believe it's some of the most important work we can all do for ourselves. But it starts with asking ourselves, what is a good life? What is a good life? Because when we're, especially with social media, but we're in the comparison game and everybody looks like they're doing more. We're comparing ourselves to our neighbors and our friends and family members and what we see on social media. And it's constant comparison. And it's always trying to feel like, oh, I'm not enough compared to everybody else. So I need to do
Their
more.
highlight reel.
Yeah. And then it's like, more isn't enough. I want to be better than. And again, that's just a pattern that we can get stuck in. And because it's more about looking what others are doing and then comparing ourselves, as opposed to just asking ourselves a question, what is my good life? And to just script it out, to put it in narrative form and say, hey, if my life would looked exactly like this, that would be a pretty good life. And just knowing that if it looked like this, now if I did X factor of that, great. But if it just was this, that would be a pretty damn good life. I'd be satisfied with that. And to really sketch that out and put in narrative form. And it takes some work. It takes some thinking time. It takes some alone time. If we we need it for ourselves. And if we're married or have a partner, then it's like, what do we want for us together as our partnership? What do we want as a family? Where do we live? What type of lifestyle do we have? What's important to it, and what might be a luxury that if we had it, great, but we'd be happy without it. But it takes that time. And very few people take the time to write out what a good life is, like, and really get down to brass tacks. And far fewer people do it with their spouse or with, someone they want to share their life with. So we're just constantly in reactive mode. We're chasing things and reactive to the fire and chasing things. And we never get closer to fulfillment because we don't know what would fulfill us in the first place.
Yeah.
So that's that piece. And the second piece is to quantify it. So how much money does it take to be able to underwrite the cost of that life?
Yeah.
And then we're looking at more philosophical, what is a good life? And then very practical is how much money does it cost? And when we can get to the bottom of both of those equations, then we can start creating kind of a life plan that we can start playing out that will move us in that direction, the trajectory towards what we want, as opposed to just drifting and going, whatever life takes us. So it's just this deciding to take more agency over our life and our well-being. And before, just like money and business were my North Star. And I just figured I'd worry about the rest of life whenever I hit the North Star without even knowing what that was. And I lost so much. I lost my health. I lost my marriage. I had to redevelop my relationship with my children because I was just so singular focused, because there was a big trade-off for those big money and success goals that I had at the time. Like, I was on the road a lot. So when I had this advice and I rewrote my life, I realized, like, oh, this is what really fulfills me is this life. And so I just rewrote my life and made it actually a much simpler version of what it was before. And I just believe simpler adds there's so much beauty to simple that I think we overlook by sometimes overcomplicating our lives.
I love that. What I noticed, and I had a similar thing, I realized that for me, my goals were kind of like the horizon line. I was running towards it, but it's always like,
it always moves. You don't get any closer.
It's always here, but never there, right? And it was just like I would get to where I thought it was, and then oh no, that's not it yet. And it's just it's like you're running forever. So, and so many people are get to that point. So, especially like high income earners, they're like struggling. It's almost like this hamster wheel. What would you say people can do to change that?
Yeah, the hamster wheel is real. And there's the latest stat that I looked up was, I think ultimately everybody wants to be a millionaire. They want to be financially free. They want to have financial security. Like, everybody has these same desires, but it's not with clarity. Like, again, there's not real clarity around, why do I want to be a millionaire, and what is it going to take to be a billionaire? And do I need to have more than $1 million, for example? But only 9% of Americans are millionaires. And that includes our primary residents. If we take our primary residents out, there's like 5 to 6% of bona fide net worth millionaires. Wow. And you think about that, with all of this information and knowledge and all the stuff and ability to make earnings these days that have been historically much more difficult to make, the percentage of millionaires is not going up. And what that means is that, we have on one side of the bell curve, if we have the millionaires, like that 9%, then we have the other side that are really struggling, like in poverty and just whatever the thing is. But then we have the middle, there's the bell curve in the middle. And in the bell curve is what I call is the rat race. It's the month to month, that no matter if you're making $50,000 a year or $250 a year, you have to work this month to pay last month's bills. And that's what that hamster wheel is. It means, oh my God, I have to go do it again to pay the bills and do it again to pay the bills, without this feeling of ever getting ahead. It's the hamster wheel for a reason. You're just going in circles, and you try to work harder or do a side hustle or whatever the case is and listen to the last piece of advice, but you're not getting anywhere. And it's like, people, when I say, where is anywhere, they don't know what anywhere is, but they just have this feeling they're not going anywhere and they're not getting ahead. So that's what that hamster wheel is. And the only way out of the hamster wheel is a very simple equation that is you have to spend less than you make. And it's a money law, it's a financial principle. But what makes
Yeah.
that difficult is there's this thing called Parkinson's law of money. And Parkinson's law of money says that expenses will always rise to match income. So we think, oh, when I make more money, then I can save or invest. And when I make more money, life will become easier. When I make more money, then, everything's going to get better. But what happens is the more money we make, the more money we spend, and we tend to complicate our lives with more debt or with more something that we have to take care of. So when we have a smaller house and it's serving us just fine, but we have a smaller house and a certain income, then we get a big jump in income. We buy a bigger house because we can, and we, kind of the social pressure to do that. But with the bigger house comes more yard maintenance. And now maybe we need a pool guy, and we need the yard guy, and we need the housekeeper, and we need all these things for this big old house. And I did that. Like I had the big old multi-million-dollar kind of mansion, if you will. And I'm like, oh my God, just taking care of this thing is a full-time job. And I'm managing people just to take care of the thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this? And it just didn't make sense. And then when I sold that and put that into like 3 investment properties and bought me just a really nice 2,400 square foot home that easy to maintain and all the things, I just realized like my life is so much easier and I'm living in the same square footage of this place as I did in the other one.
Yeah.
Type of thing. So it's just looking at this, but just knowing that that's that keep up in the Joneses and that we're just going to be in this trap of Parkinson's law. So what we have to do to get out of that rat race is we have to know how much money's enough, know how much money we need to invest to hit some of these financial freedom numbers over time. But it's just knowing that there are these 3 buckets of money. And the first bucket of money is what I call it's just your earnings. And so as business owners, or even invest, if it's real estate investing to flip and do that type of thing. And I know you did this for a while, but that's a job. I mean, if you're buying real estate and you're flipping it, that's a job.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. And then you're getting a big payday. You're not getting paid anything for a while. And then you get a big payday. And then you have to go do it again. And you have to go do it again. And you can do that very successfully as real estate as a business, for example. But that's that piece. So the better you get at real estate flipping, the better the margins, blah, blah, blah. And you can just get better over time. But that's just that one category of money. And again, we have to invest to get better at those things. Like people will invest with you to learn how to buy real estate and to do these things if they want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
The second bucket of money is our household money, meaning that we have to invest time to manage our money. So that's what I call it's our relationship with money. And it's the time we invest to spend time with our money, to manage it, to be good stewards of it, to understand it, to appreciate it, to watch it, to touch it, to all these things. And, I wrote this book called Falling for Money. And I talk about this relationship. It's really time spent and this joyful partnership we can have with our money and learning these what I call first principles of money. Like the most important one is spend less than you make. And by doing so, it's just knowing that I have to manage it to make sure I'm spending less than I make and that I'm putting money away to be able to invest in other things. But that's just getting good at spending money, knowing how to spend it wisely and prudently and how much to spend relative to how much money we make. And then that third bucket is the wealth creation bucket. And that's the difference between buying real estate to flip, which that's your business to make money, and buying real estate as an asset that you're going to let your tenants pay down that mortgage over time and you're going to collect the cash flow. And when you have several properties and a part of that portfolio, that becomes passive income that can replace your working income. So over a 40-year career, we start working at 25. Millennials kind of start at 30 now, but like 30 to like 25 to 65 or whatever that 40-year journey is, pretty much we all work 40 years. That's just kind of how humans are designed to work. So during that 40 years, that's how we build wealth and how we build this abundance and freedom, get good at making more money, invest in more skills and knowledge to continue to increase our value to make more money over time so that we don't get stuck at some type of income level. get really good at managing it, loving it, that relationship with our money, so that we always have that surplus. And that third category, over 40 years, that we're building, we're investing in index funds, we're investing in real estate. There's a bazillion places to invest, but you have to, over that 40 years, invest. And when you, in the money game, when you do all those three things and it's designed around a good life and how much money is enough and working towards freedom, the money works itself out, because it's math. It's so much easier than like relationships. It's so much easier than figuring out our health and wellness category. Money is just numbers, and numbers. I'm not a math person, but it's the math behind the money. You just put these principles to work and you're going to have the money. That's just the way it is. It's like you go to the gym, you lift hefty weights, and you don't have to worry about the muscles are going to come. And that's what money does. And so I just love to talk about this, to inspire anybody just to want to love their money and start learning it, and get their hands dirty and get over the fear of it, or get over the avoidance of it because of whatever stories we have in our head, and just like say, I'm just going to tackle this thing and get good at it and become a millionaire and become financially free.
It's a game that anyone can play and win if they, know the rules. And that was such a great way of describing it. I love those three buckets, with your earned income, then you're just taking the time to manage it, and then making sure you have excess so that you can put it into that last bucket to create passive and residual income. So I love that. I want to get into advice. Right? What's the best life advice you've ever received?
Oh, but other than the life advice, like how much money is enough? I'll answer a little differently. That, I mean, I've had so much great advice, because I've really invested in lots of mentors and coaches and teachers. And so, I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today without heavily investing in those that have gone before me. But if I were to do it all over again, that one, just in terms of money, but in terms of life fulfillment, if I were to do it all over again, I would have been more selective and spent more time first learning about myself, but who I chose as a life partner, who I married at a young age, and having a marriage that was not the right match for me, and divorce, losing my fortune that I worked so hard for through divorce, losing more than half everything that I built in that case. That wasn't good for finances. It wasn't good for my children. It wasn't good for me. And it's just because I didn't appreciate how important who we have as our life partner is in financial terms and in fulfillment terms, what I call the 2S, financial and fulfillment. And if I were to do it all over again, I would have put more importance on the value of partnership and marriage, and even other types of partnership.
That is so true. I mean, I feel incredibly blessed to have as my life partner. My husband is also my business partner. I feel like, just when it comes to relationships, I feel like a billionaire. But that makes such a huge difference. And when there's discord there, it makes, does not make for a happy life, and causes a lot of divorces.
I mean, think about you, like that example is that one, let's say if your marriage ended in divorce, one, just all the emotional and with family and kids and everything, but then look at what you've worked so hard from a financial standpoint to create. Like, at least half of that would be gone, if not more. So then, like, if we start, I love marriage and money. So I teach, as part of what I teach is marriage and money, again, because this is one of my biggest mistakes. I mean, mistakes, for lack of better words, but things I would do over again. Because when you're a couple and you're aligned as, is husband and wife, or whatever that partnership is, and then you're aligned financially, and like you guys work together as business partners and life partners, man, the synergy between masculine and feminine, the synergy between the different roles and strengths balanced with weaknesses. And when you get to do that as a couple towards the same aim, because, you have the same long-term and short-term goals, that, I mean, anything's really possible. Like, you can just build and grow so much faster, and you can just enjoy life because you're going to have these life experiences that are collective, and you can separate roles. So there's just so much magic in when I call marriage and money, yet
Yeah.
so few marriages, that's even the best marriages, don't spend time to really think about, hey, what are our financial goals and intentions? What is
Yeah.
the legacy we want to leave? How, what is the value of money into our whole family unit? And how do we want to see this play out? And what is your role? And what is my role? And how do we talk about this thing? And money, even with the best marriages, can be the most stressful part of the relationship. And so
Yeah.
I just love it when couples want to do this work together and really get on the same page with money. Because when you do with your partner, I mean, we all can build on our own, but when we have a great partnership and aligned, we can do it that much better and that much faster, and it can be that much more fun.
Yeah. So we have a weekly money date, and we just spend time every week, just like focusing on our money.
Well, that's so
Um,
awesome. I love that. I mean, I just think more marriages that did what you're doing, we'd have a lot better marriages out there.
Agreed. Um, what you might have already shared this, but what's the best financial advice you've ever gotten or you could give?
Yeah, when I first started getting into business and money, my mentor, his name was Gary Keller, and he's the founder of Keller
Mhm.
Williams, which is, I think, the largest real estate
Yeah.
brokerage in the world. And I was really lucky because I got to study with him early on, and he was one of my I mean, he one-on-one coached me back in the day, and
Wow.
so I learned so much from Keller. And it was he said two things. He said, build a business, become good at business, and study business, build a business, because you just have more agency and control of your life when you have a business. But business isn't easy, so you have to learn it. So I just love that. So that just got stuck in my head that I
Yeah.
was 20 something, early 20s, like 25. And as a real estate agent, hustling, making good money, but I was always just chasing the next deal. I didn't get what business was. And so that was just that great piece of advice, is to learn business and become a student of business.
Yeah.
And then he also said, and while you build business, build wealth. And they're different. And so he planted those in my head before I even knew what they meant. And then I went on and I studied Kiyosaki, and I studied all these other many mentors that you probably have as well. And all the greats say the same thing. I mean, none of this is rocket science. I'm not saying anything that hasn't been written in,
A lot
500,000
of
books,
people don't
basically.
know this. They don't learn that. It's not rocket science and it's all out there, but so few of us are taught that.
And we're not talking about it because money is still this taboo topic, and it's still not
Yeah.
talked about. And we have all these feelings and emotions about it. And I mean, the practical part of money and wealth creation is pretty easy. Like, the principles are the principles, you follow them, and it's going to work out. And so that's the easy part, is just putting the principles to work. The hard part is that we're all a collection of feelings, emotions, and mindsets. And we all bring our money mindset from our childhood. And so we believe the same things our parents believed, and we believe the same things our neighbors and people around us do. And so it's just that I saw like a meme, and it said that a meme around wealth, and it says, if you want to be rich, one path has a million people on it, and that's the path to avoid, and the other path has 3 people on it, and that's the path you go, because that's the wealth path. And the reason why I love that meme just in visual form is because you cannot do what you see everybody else doing that seems obvious and
Yeah.
become wealthy. There's a reason why fewer than 9% of Americans are millionaires, and that's just a millionaire. We're far fewer that are multimillionaires, right? So it's just understanding that we're this combination of beliefs and mindsets we adopted from our families. We're in this herd mentality, which we're keeping up with the Joneses and what it looks like everybody else is doing right, which they're not, because the statistics would be different if that were true. And if we want to build wealth, and I know, your audience are listening, listeners, they're seeking real estate. And I love real estate. I've made my fortune in real estate. It's not the only way, it's a way, but it's the way that I've really loved. But it's
Yeah.
looking at that, like I became great at business. I became great at managing my money, and I studied real estate investing. I mean, I took the courses, I read the books, I did the things, I put in my 10,000 hours, and it's paid off. But that was different than building my business to make the money to be able to invest in real estate in the first place. And
Yeah.
so again, it was just taking that road. And I'll complete here with one story that I think is the example. But my kids were probably in middle school. So middle school age, when what their friends have and what their friends say really matters. And both my kids are 15 months apart, so they're pretty close. And I don't know, we're sitting at the dinner table or around the kitchen island, and it was my daughter, and my daughter said, Mom, why don't we live in a big house like all our friends do? And they have this car and that car, and they were just going on and on about what all their friends have. And my son chimed in a little bit. He's like, yeah, and so said this or said that. And at first it stung a little bit. I'm like, oh my God, like, not they were getting bullied. It was just like friends, kids talking. It wasn't anything really
Yeah.
bad, but it was enough for my kids, like wondering, like, why do we have so much less than our friends? And this was in the number one school district in Austin. So we lived in the school district, and we were in the place with lots of money, lots of network, lots of money. And so anyway, at first it stung as a mom, but then I said, all right, let's go for a drive. And so they get in the backseat of the car, put on their seatbelts, get in the backseat of the car. I'm like, okay, this is our house. We live in it. And this is our car. Our car's paid off. Not that you know what that means, but we have two cars. They're paid off, and they're not, they're nice cars, but they're not the brand new XYZ. But then
Yeah.
I drove them around Austin, and I said, all right, our house is the smallest house on the block, the house that we live in. And our house is much smaller than a lot of your friends. But we own that house. And I drove down to that part of town, and we own that house. And I bought that condo. So when you go to college, we own that building, and we own that duplex. And I just drove them. I took like 3 hours, and we drove all over town. I said, we own all of these different things. And I just used that as an opportunity to say, we don't
Yeah.
have what's big and shiny and stuff from on the front end, but we do have all this money, and that's what
Yeah.
money is. And it just became this learning moment. And from then it just changed everything. I'd hear them, like, we'd drive, if I was like soccer mom or something, we'd drive by a certain something. My
And you go,
daughter would
oh,
say,
we
and
own
we own
that.
that house, right? Type of thing. So it's just like, even the kids notice that we live differently than everybody else. But that's because I was spending less on the lifestyle to be able to build this nest egg. And I started in a trailer home. We had a lot of just dysfunction and alcoholism, and that type of story that you hear. It was not a great upbringing in that case. But then we got past all that, and my parents were on my payroll until they passed. And so I
Nice.
changed in the sense that, we created a great relationship. My dad quit drinking, all these things, but the way they were able to survive is they were on my payroll. Now, it was great. They managed all my properties, did all the maintenance, did things. So it was a really great win-win relationship. But that's my parents being on my payroll, what's really allowed them to live, their version of their good life.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where I started in my parents' dynamic. And now as a mom, my kids will get an inheritance, and not just the financial inheritance, but they're building everything I'm doing in their 20s now, and they're not going to make the same mistakes. And so as a mother, it just feels so good that I reversed. Everybody else in my family is still over there
Love
somewhere,
that.
but it just
This
feels so good
legacy.
doing this work and studying it. I was able to change the legacy, the lineage of our family, and my kids will be something different. And yeah, they'll get some inheritance and money, which will feel good, but it's less about that. It's about the knowledge, and they're doing things much differently than their 20-year-old friends that are
Yeah.
just making high incomes and doing different things and kind of getting themselves in that rat race. So as a mother, again, it just feels really good to say, like, hey, just studying this. And I had a terrible education. I'm just saying, all this is not because being any smarter or anything
Yeah.
else. It's just,
Having been born with a silver spoon.
yeah,
I
it's
love
just doing the
that.
work, just doing the work and studying with you, studying with me, others. And really it's just in determination, like, hey, I want to create something different for my family.
Beautiful. Well, looking at the time, this has been so amazing. I want to end quickly with a trinity, which is a brag, a gratitude, and a desire. But before we go into that, what's the best way for people to connect with you, find out more about what you do?
A couple things. If you want a free copy of my book, just go to fallingformoney.com, and there's just a nice digital copy there. And that's an easy thing, and it will put one on my newsletter if you want me in your inbox. So that's that. And so that's called fallingformoney.com. The second thing is the easiest thing is I do a lot of education on YouTube, and it's just at Krisstina Wise, K and two S's on YouTube. So that's a great place if learn more, follow, pick up a few, tips and tricks. And it's just part of my mission again, like you. I love women talking about money, making money, investing in money, helping each other make more money, whatever the case is. I mean, I just love having these conversations. So anyway, whatever I can do to be part of that
Amazing.
conversation.
All right. Okay, so now time for the Trinity. What is one thing you're celebrating right now? What is your brag?
Oh, my brag, I think you and I were talking about this before. It's been lots of ups and downs, lots of failures, lots of moments on my knees and wondering how I'm going to get out of this situation. But just staying true to the path, true to the goals, true to the intentions. And I just celebrate a really good life right now. I live in Park City, Utah. I mean, I really just have the life of my dreams. And I just, it's still hard to believe that this has manifested into the way that it's manifested. And I share that because through whatever hardship, ups and downs, dark nights of the soul, there's something great on the other side. And it's just to keep the faith and keep learning and growing and move towards the light. And we really can create whatever we want in this life. Like I'm an example of that. You're an example of that. And no matter, sometimes if anybody's listening is in a dark spot, it's just keep on to the hope, find those that can inspire you, that have been through the hard stuff too, and can inspire you that you too will get to the other side. And that there's just lots of love and wisdom and light in the world.
Love that. Well, brag. And what's one thing you're grateful for?
Yeah, I'm you know what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for everything. I mean, every day at dinner we do our gratitudes, but I'm really grateful for my health and well-being, that it's been a long journey after getting so close to losing it. And now this comes that gratitude, just this desire to take care of my health. When I do my prayers and meditations in the morning, like every day, I just tell my body, like, thank you, body. You're so strong. You're so amazing. You know how to heal. You just have so much energy. You just get up and do it again. And yeah, just so much gratitude in my health and well-being, but just so much gratitude and our body's ability to heal and designed to be on this journey with us.
I love that. So well brag. Beautiful gratitude. And what is one desire that you have?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let's see. Business is always easy. I always have desires, the next desire for where to grow the business. I think my desire from a lifestyle is I desire to go to Africa. I really want to do an Africa safari and make that happen. I've been talking about it for so many years now, and I've just got to make it happen. And that's the next thing on the bucket list.
All right. Well, so shall your desire be, or so much better than you can imagine. That's probably one of my peak life experiences, having been on safari.
Really? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So do it. That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Krisstina, for sharing your insights on money and financial freedom. It's been incredible. And thank you to all of you coming to listen. I hope you can apply these incredible lessons to your journey. Thank you for getting real with us today. Make sure to subscribe and follow so you don't miss an episode. Let's get real and stay real. Bye-bye.